right, here we go. Hey everybody, my name is Pierre Holzebus, and I work on the Microsoft Connected Field Service and Industrial Metaverse team. And today we're working on the Connected Field Service and Metaverse workload, and we're going to talk all about that with our friend Jennifer. We're going to talk about how Microsoft looks at this business, how our customers are using our tools to transform departments and companies and the industries they work in. You know, our mission at Microsoft is to empower every person on the planet and organization to achieve more, do more with less, and I can't think of a more appropriate workload and industry to empower than field service technicians and engineers who go out in the world and build and fix the things that the rest of us use every day. You know, these are the men and women who put their hard hats on and get in their trucks. They put their safety gear on. They get that job done on time and on budget, trying to work to exceed their customers' expectations every day. You know, whether we're talking about doing deliveries of water purification systems out to our public water infrastructure, or people climbing up the cellular phone towers to install the latest cellular phone systems. I also think of all of our technicians and engineers down in Florida restoring after a hurricane. You know, these are the folks getting the job done every day, and we love them for this. So lean into this conversation, ask questions, contribute a verse to the story that we are helping to write. And that is our intro, and welcome to our time today. And my name again is Pierre Holzebus, and we have a special guest today, Jennifer, and we'll introduce her in a few minutes as we kind of get through our time this afternoon, or this morning, or this evening, depending on where you're at and listening. So glad to have you along for the ride today. So today, I like to start my week out with what I call the 5. And the 5 is just top of the mind things that I'm thinking about. And, Industrial Metaverse is one. Last week, we had Ignite, which is a big deal here at Microsoft, because a lot of stuff is kind of held back that we're working on, and we kind of like to talk about it then after Ignite. And so we'll talk about some of the stuff that Judson talked about, that industrial metaverse. You know, that was a big discussion, had a couple sessions, and it was a keynote for him. And so we'll talk about that today. And it's the first time that we use the phrase in public, physical operations. I didn't spell that right, but physical operations. So we'll talk about physical operations and kind of what that means a little bit. And I also have something I want to share with you guys too. It's pretty cool. I use some bad words at Microsoft, and so I'll tell you about that experience. It's kind of fun. And, the theme, one of the big themes, that I'm just hearing occurring over and over again is just doing more with less. A lot of people are really concerned about recession and other kind of macro. We use the phrase internally not internally, externally at Microsoft. We say, economic headwinds or macroeconomics, like there's bigger things outside that are impacting our businesses. And, so this becomes a really big theme for a lot of our customers now. They want to be able to really do more with less resources. They have shrinking or managing that. And, when I think of trouble, sometimes I also think of opportunities at the same time. And so mindset for me this week's, how are we positioned to take advantage of that? I used to facilitate and teach Who Moved My Cheese. And one of that phrases is, move with the cheese. Just don't, there's some things you just can't fix. And, so you just have to move with the change. You're not in charge of the change sometimes. And so sometimes you just have to figure out how to be positioned for that change that's coming around the corner. And so that's an exciting time for us is Ignite, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. Ignite. One of the let me just pull this up first, because I'm just going to introduce her to our show. This is Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello.
Hey, Jennifer. She is, and I'll let you do an introduction of yourself here. Jennifer's with MCA Connect, which is one of our partners, and so she's part of our team. at Microsoft. They do the implementation and help customers configure solutions. And she's the director there of the Field Service Solutions, and she's in the Bay Area. And she's part of and really started the mixed reality practice for the team there. And Jennifer, maybe talk a little more about yourself there. Toot your own horn for a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on your podcast, Pierre.
Of course.
The Metaverse honestly is a passion project for me. So anytime I can talk to my colleagues on that, it's the top of my list. Thank you very much. As Pierre was mentioning, I am the director of Connected Field Service Solutions at MCA Connect. I've been working in Dynamics for over 20 years now. Within the field service space around 6 years. Really excited about the new iterations of the Metaverse, mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality. As you can tell here, my office, it is clearly its own environment in here. But I'm based in the Bay Area, and 20 years working across various verticals, and right now really focusing on the manufacturing sector, the oil and gas sector. Big demand for these headsets and for digital twins and all that kind of good stuff in the industry.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. That is really nifty. So you guys are involved in lots of different projects. MCA has been, like you were saying, 6 years. That puts you guys right at the very beginning of when Microsoft came out with field services about a little over 6 years ago, about 7, maybe something like that. I'm trying to remember the dates. I get old. I forget these things. 2015. So 7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, MCA has been around a lot longer than
oh yeah,
focusing on field service for that amount of time.
Yeah, my previous job that I had was with a company called Winsoft, which is a partner of Microsoft and a field service company, and focused on field service applications. And MCA, kind of the legacy organization, because MCA has gone through some changes over the years, but that team that you had was a partner back then. So this goes back to 2010, 2009. You guys were partners for Winsoft and did a bunch of Winsoft. So you guys have been in the field service business for quite some time, and so that's cool. It's you mentioned two industries which I love. They're near and dear to my heart. Energy is a big one, and it's a big deal there in California right now, especially right now in California. Energy and the utility infrastructure, and it's just getting pushed to the limit, and the demand has never been higher, which is really a sign of awesome economic growth and demand. Like as the state of California just continues just to surprise everybody as they continue to grow and really make that impact. And so that puts demand on the energy grid and the infrastructure around that. And so everything from trimming trees and the arborists that keep the forests working, so they don't, we're not encroaching on power lines and things on that order. That's one of the areas I know that we've worked with different customers on, all the way to, working in some of the largest oil refineries in the world to keep those things up and running. Chevron was an early adopter, actually, of HoloLens there in California. So can you talk a little bit about maybe in the energy space, your experience in some of the energy customers that we're working with?
Oh, absolutely. We could talk for days on that. Here in California, of course, we're going through droughts. We have fires. PG&E is actually one of our customers, so we do a lot of work, especially within their control center. But we're seeing it in the field for sure. In terms of those conditions and those fighting the fires, but on the oil and gas side, really it's we have a lot of business in the Texas area, and really is around those oil refineries. They have a demand for these headsets, and And the environment they're working in is very confined. It's very confined space. It's dirty. It's loud. It's loud. But really, they need to be able to tap into senior experts who know how to operate the nuances of that specific drill. And so these headsets are quite invaluable for them. And to your point, Sharon, I mean, that's a big white glove customer for Microsoft on this space. Happy to see that they're leveraging the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, if we go and go on YouTube and look up some of the videos, some of the initial work that we did in remote assist is really foundationally, they're like customer one almost, at scale, with hundreds of HoloLenses in the field, and it really becomes an archetype for almost any, like you said, if you can it's kind of that song like New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, because it's such a demanding environment, and they're not driven by. What I've found is, a lot of those energy customers are not necessarily driven by, hey, we want the cheapest solution. They need the best solution. They need a solution that actually works for them. And the users are the first ones to go, this is either helping me or I'm throwing it in the truck and I'm never using it again because it was, very distracting or whatnot. So a lot of the...
We've heard those stories there. With some of the competition headsets, and it is very limiting. Whether they're just getting reading up over one eye, it just does not give them the full breadth of application that HoloLens provides.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I know the HoloLens, there is different, and we'll talk some about the remote assist technologies and guides and different ways that we're able to present that. One of the things that a lot of people don't really think about, because they are not necessarily users, the IT people that are kind of specifying these things aren't necessarily the users. And the users need that kind of heads-up, hands-free kind of a thing. They don't want to have to be holding a device to show you, hey, look at this thing over here, and I'm showing my camera to my remote expert. Because now that remote expert's going to go, all right, now turn the valve, to the right 14 degrees, and they need both hands to do that work. Mm-hmm. And so from a safety standpoint, this is not a very helpful thing. Whereas if I am able to get my HoloLens and put that on, I can. I have the old one. You can. Now I have my heads up and my hands free, and I'm able to, work and put my PDF files over here on the right, and then have my, area of work over here, and I can, move around with it. So that's hilarious.
The heads-up is absolutely the key message. We were surprised when we started talking to our customer technology. Of course, the secondary use of remote assist customers, not so much the technician wearing the headset, but being able to take your phone and aim it at the piece of equipment. So having the ability to your customers access to that remote assist on their phone, send them a link. They can show the customer service team what's going on. And then if they need to technician, great. But it's that ability to kind of put that technology in the customer's hands, not just the technician. And that was a big surprise to me. We have one customer who this is a key to help increase that customer satisfaction for them to be able to that leg technician on site. Well, let's just make sure that it's really that asset when she was a problem, boots on the ground. And customers like it.
Yeah. That is one of the things we're seeing as we get wider adoption of remote assist. One of the things we've kind of found out is we're not necessarily competing against a lot of other commercially available remote assist applications that are embedded into the service application, what we're often competing against is QuickTime, or not QuickTime, but FaceTime. That people are just pulling up their hey, and they're calling into the remote expert and FaceTiming, people, and it literally is that. I just need a camera there on site. So that is one of the things. Not having to always deploy, because not in every one of those environments I do need the heads-up, hands-free. A camera is good enough for some of those. The other one is we've seen it in the call center that we call one-time call, right? So if I'm a technician and I'm working in a call center and I'm supporting a customer remotely, the customer is not part of my network. They don't have Active Directory installed. They don't have Microsoft account, so to speak, enabled. Maybe. So, but we can do a one-time call for them, and that remote assist client can connect easily. And so, kind of push the magic button over here in the call center, and it sends the customer an email link. And just in the same way that, we've all done remote support, or been on the other end of remote support from an IT person doing like a screen share of what's looking, like reinstall something or something like that. This is another way that customers are able to kind of work with
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
Pretty
And
cool.
the other scenarios, putting the headsets at the customer site, creating that extra when you go to deploy. And we're seeing some customers who are adding that revenue stream of that extra service level agreement that they're selling for their package. And then they've got these headsets on site at the customer. So if there's an issue, the customer just throws that headset on and starts that session.
Yeah, there is a video, and I'll get it up here in a sec, but the question about HP has a really, really nice video of a service that uses the remote assist. And when you kind of look into that, where a guy shows up to work and the fancy $1 million printer is not working. And he's like, oh my gosh, we have this big print job we have to do. Let's get it done. So the boss just tells him, put the HoloLens on. What? I've never used this. And then he puts it on, and it rings up the call center, and the HP person chats with the person, is able to guide the customer through, you will have a spare part in your spare parts bin for that machine. It's this, fuser unit, and it's, open the door, it's the thing on the right, pull the tab, replace the unit, put it back in, and you'll be up and running. And what we're seeing is kind of this evolution around the whole connection between a manufacturer selling something, and now this evolution of them basically selling the usage of something. HP, if you were to buy that printer, would probably cost about $1 million. But HP, if you look into the details, they don't sell it that way. They sell it per page. And so a lot of that industry, and the printing industry, is sold. Really sophisticated equipment is sold that way. So it's really on the manufacturer to keep it up and running. It's really on them, like you're saying, to have that service level agreement, because you want the customer churning out more prints, and the customer wants to churn out more prints. And it's like a revenue sharing model almost. It's really interesting. And a lot of our manufacturers, especially on that high end, like you said, that is their heavy equipment manufacturers are doing that. We've got different customers doing that.
And when you layer in IoT there on top of that, so you're monitoring that asset. You're monitoring if there are warnings coming up. That just adds that extra layer of service. You're catching before it happens.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, it's a cool system. There's a lot of different opportunities. Oh, wait, I'm getting a little bit of an echo here. There.
While you're doing that, I can share my screen.
Sure. Yeah. So can you talk? Yeah. So you wanted to maybe share a little bit about some of the projects you guys are working on, and some of the things you guys have done. So.
Sure.
While you're doing that, I'm going to show this. So about So we're talking about industrial metaverse, and this is the idea that a lot of people think about when they think of metaverse. They think of the avatars. I did this on the Connect back in the olden days in like 2010. The Connect that shipped with the Xbox 360 had this little app that you could stand in front, and so this was me standing in front and tracked your hands and listened and moved your lips and stuff like that. It's missing my audio, but so this was my avatar that I had. It's hilarious.
Fantastic. My gosh.
Now here, this is one of those things when I look at that, it reminds me of something that happened about 3 weeks ago. I was, you have those pictures that come up on your phone like, hey, 10 years ago, and it's like a picture from a vacation or something like that. And there's a picture of me with my kids in front of the Grand Canyon, and we went to the Grand Canyon about 10 years ago. And I'm looking at the shirt that I'm wearing, and it's the same shirt that I was wearing that day, and it was this yellow shirt. And I'm like, I am too old. I have literally this shirt I'm wearing today is 10 years old, and that video 12 years ago, I still wear that suit. That suit I wear to church all the time still. Like I've had that that suit for 12 years. I mean, man, I am old.
You need to do a before and after.
Yes, exactly.
Try to go background and sing.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. How you doing? Oh, here you go. I can add.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Super. So when we're talking about remote assist, it's not just about that verbal collaboration. We have this concept called annotation. So you see a lot of these little arrows. Where Dag, who's my remote expert here in the top, is actually advising me. There you go. Now you can see it. But you can also bring up documents. You can bring up text. You can see here I've got a service built-in. In this scenario, when I go to demo, this really is around a repair to an alternator on an audio 5. So we bring up all of the relevant documents. We've got a chat. Again, if we got multiple people on that, multiple experts. So here's just another option here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your annotations and stuff.
Yep. The annotations. But also what's great is that being able to pull up Power BI report. I'm watching those sensors change in real time. So as you're putting torque on a specific part of that alternator, being able to see those sensor readings change. So, it's not just, the headset and some of these mixed reality apps and remote assist. It's pulling in all of that information around that asset to be able to, again, heads up, hands free, see those readings without having to carry those specific meters that a lot of technicians have to carry to be able to hook up. So that's another angle. We're working on a Dodge Charger in Hilton Head a few months ago. So again, just lots of different applications here. I'm just going to run this video. So usually when I'm showing this, I'm downstairs in my garage, so you can see that side view. And then I've got my remote technician providing those annotations. And I'll just kind of zoom through this really quickly. And what's great also is that you don't have to necessarily stay in one place. You can, surround that piece of equipment. If you're on a factory floor, it doesn't have to be flat. These annotations, i.e. spatial anchors, stay there. They persist in real time. And here we are pulling up a few documents. So it's a great story to tell.
Our case studies that we've done have been recently with Mercedes, is a Mercedes of America, uses this in their dealership network for this exact scenario. often the vehicle being worked on is a giant diesel, 18-wheeler kind of a thing. And so, they're very sophisticated pieces of equipment nowadays. Who can fix that? My dad was a car guy, and we grew up always fixing cars and stuff like that. And I bring my car to a mechanic. I don't fix anything myself anymore because they're complicated. And so this is just accelerating. I'm thinking of a company like Fisker right now who's got to, they're building a car and they have no dealer network, and so they're going to, be servicing this in service units all over the United States through, I think, Firestone is going to be the service agency for them. But, so like the whole training and onboarding of those technicians to get them up to speed, when you're just launching something, that's really hard to do. It's a giant investment. And so it's way better to do something like this, where we can roll out new functions and features, and we can and now support a broad and quick adoption of this in the field by remotely supporting folks. We have smart people in the field, but we just rolled something new out in a new line of vehicles. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely has a very specific and good ROI.
Yep.
Cool.
And especially with,
That's awesome.
on the manufacturing side, I know we're talking about automotive. There is, we're losing a lot of that knowledge as soon as workers are leaving, and we're not getting that influx of workers coming in. So having the technology to onboard those that are coming in quickly and to get them on the factory floor, it's key. So
yes. So you're talking about, one of the things that's probably like one of the top of mind things for CIOs and CEOs and service operations is that retention of people and the challenge of skilled trades. Skilled trades is a big challenge right now, right? Like everybody in that manages those businesses, they're very well aware of, we're at 100% employment in this industry. It's hard to get new people, young people to come into, get, grease in their fingernails. It's not appealing necessarily. The skilled trades, for whatever reason, it's a challenge to retain people or to grow your business by getting more people. So a lot of strategy has been, hey, we need to do better at HR policies. We need to raise wages, and we need to be more competitive in the marketplace, which is true. You do need to do all of that, but organizations that are doing that are still having challenges. And so this is the doing more with less part, like you're saying. This is the doing more with less. I can help. I don't have that training curve, that onboarding process. I don't need to do it the old way. I have a newer ways to do that, and I can shrink the time that it takes for people to be, up and running and good to go. And I can also reduce time for those experts in the field. So they, like you're saying, in heavy equipment in manufacturing, a lot of fixing of equipment comes from I got to send a factory tech to to my customer's job site to go and do the adjustment, because let's say maybe we installed that piece of equipment and so we're the best ones to repair it. Well, that means getting on a plane, flying somewhere, or getting in a car and driving hours to go to take care of that multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. And that time is unproductive. That travel time is expensive. And, it's a couple $1,000 to put somebody in the field. And I think our number internally that we use for ROI calculation, about $3,000 to put, in terms of productivity time to put somebody in a situation like that and get them out on a job site. And then to do, 4 hours worth of work and then, okay, fixed, and customers happy. Hey, we got our, 2-day SLA. We're up and running. Everybody's happy. And the only people that aren't happy is the tech that just said, man, if I could have just seen this, I could have told somebody to replace that part or whatever and do job inspection remotely. I could have just done that 4 hours from my desk in my office. And it's that kind of leveraging productivity that this is disrupting. It's disrupting an old way of kind of managing that service operation and that physical operation of equipment.
Yeah, and I think it really turned around when COVID came around. A lot of companies wanted to keep their people safe. not putting them on a plane and travel time, saving those costs forward. But also it was about keeping some of these, especially on the older spectrum, keeping these people safe, not putting them in harm's way. So again, perhaps putting in a different technician, sending them out with the headset, other area as well.
Yeah, I did a tour this summer and went to different events for facilities management. I was part of a road show that we did with one of our customers, and with CBRE actually, who was one of our big customer wins last year. So I was on the road with them this last year, talking to facilities management companies around the United States and Canada. And one of the things, this is a common, thing that is just top of mind with multi-site facilities management. It's like skilled trades, hard to find people. So I pulled up pictures because I'm old and old enough to remember taking a typing class. I took typing class in high school, and you had to, on a manual typewriter type. And back then, they had, in the 70s, you had what they called secretarial pools or the steno pool. And so if you were an executive and you wanted to, write a letter to the division, there was no email back then. So you got the secretary, and that person would come into the office, write it down, and then that person would go and type it, and then you'd maybe bring it to the big accelerator, which was a Xerox machine, and copy that letter off and then put it in the intercompany mail to, the divisions, and that's how you sent out a message. And it was super labor intensive. And, so if you looked at, read the Wall Street Journal and different business things talking about the labor shortage in administrative assistants and how we need to, raise their wages and we need to be more competitive. I mean, it's the same story. And so what changed that industry wasn't any of those things. What changed the industry was email. Like once email came out, then the steno pool wasn't as important. And that automation and that direct kind of connection to somebody being able to communicate a message to a whole bunch of people pretty instantly, changed the way that a business, staffed. And it's the same. This is very disruptive. What we're talking about is kind of disruptive in many ways to that. And that was on my list of the 5. Move with the cheese. That like you said, COVID came, and a lot of companies were like, "Do not send your technicians. We don't want them on the job site anymore." So you guys have to figure out how to help us fix your machine that you sold us. Send us the part, and we have our own factory engineers, and they're going to be, tier 1 support, and you help them. And so, I mean, that's during COVID, Microsoft came out with a whole bunch of little programs. We gave 6 months of remote assist away to any healthcare company, all of these different, anybody wanted to try it. We gave 6 months out. And a lot of those customers have stuck around because they found it to be that helpful for them. So it's pretty cool.
No,
pretty cool stuff.
I remember that. And they were giving a headset too.
That's right. We was doing that. All right. So let's move on to another topic. Let's talk a little bit about this, maybe from a different perspective. Oh, excuse me. I had a little cough there. All right, so we wanted to talk about, last week we talked about, and we really had this discussion about the industrial metaverse. And I'd like to kind of maybe talk through some of those things that Judson had talked about last week. He had a couple different case studies and whatnot, but I thought it was a really good kind of way to start to think about what the industrial metaverse is. And I just wanted to get your opinion if you kind of agree with this or have, what's your idea behind this, So basically what we were saying is the metaverse is really 3 different things. The metaverse is, I think of it like when we talk about something like mobility, like a terminology like mobile. Like Microsoft used to be mobile first, cloud first, or when we talk about cloud technology, we use this phrase mobile. And mobile could be everything from pieces of hardware that you use to talk to people, to the applications that have to be designed, to the networking infrastructure that goes in there. I mean, there's a lot of design issues to actually deliver a mobile experience. And so Metaverse is a term to me like that. It's a term like mobility or cloud. So it's a concept. It's a broader concept. In and of itself, it is not a product. That we have different ways that the metaverse is expressed. And so the first one that most people think about is the consumer space, that kind of, hey, we see the, virtual reality games, and we see experiences that different individuals can have along the way to have fun and to interact with one another through virtual environments, and, Beat Saber and all the cool stuff, Second Life, these kind of experiences, what in many ways our friends at Facebook are working, or Meta, now they've named their whole company after this, are working on those experiences. Microsoft actually helping with some of those. That's that avatar experience that I was just showing you, and it's kind of kitschy for some people that are, that's the first thing that they think about when they think about metaverse. The other area that we were talking about, Justin was talking about, was in the enterprise space, communications and collaborations between people at work in a work environment, similar to what we're doing right now. We're having a meeting with people online. We're not in a physically, you're in California, I'm in Michigan. We have people that will experience this that are in other places, but we've come together for kind of a virtual, not a virtual meeting, a real meeting. It's just in a virtual space. And there's a whole bunch of things, we're using kind of this stuff every day. And the last one is the industrial metaverse component, which is what we're really focusing in on. And that it really focuses in a lot of the foundations that we've already had. You had mentioned, Power BI, for example, and being able to bring visualizations of Power BI into the application experience. The HoloLens Connect, that video that I showed, is from 2010. This isn't brand new technology. This is tech that's been out for a little bit, and it's in and of itself pretty mature with that, and then people working together in that kind of virtual space and bringing in AI into that experience. And if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend. I'm going to just put it up here quickly. This is talking about Coca-Cola and taking their factory line and putting it in the industrial metaverse, and what we call it internally at Microsoft, and what many people in the industry call it, is digital twins, which is being able to take a factory line and put it in a virtual space. So you're able to see telemetry off the environment. You're also able then to ingest the data into an AI system that allows you to predict changes that are happening, recommend settings that are part of that. Let me just move this forward a little bit, because she'll actually show that. There you go. So, I'm pulling in the kind of Power BI telemetry off the devices that I'm looking at in real time. And again, in the oil and gas space, this stuff has been around for quite some time. Aveda is a partner that has this technology. We'll take 3D CAD drawings and put them into a 3D space like this that you can experience. And then it's not as complicated as most people think. It's taking a lot of the off-shelf things. But what this was really interesting, what they're talking about is that this avatar, which is really an AI, just the front end of an AI, is looking at the conditions that exist on that factory line. And there's many things that affect the production of Coca-Cola, right? Like the ambient temperature outside and the humidity and all of that kind of stuff. And so to be able to make adjustments to the water temperature going into the system to take advantage of a colder day, something like that. So you can turn kind of crank the thermostat down, so to speak, in your building to take advantage of a colder day outside. That's the type of things that they're ingesting. And then as a result, what you're doing is saving energy as a result of this. And so in the trials that we've done with Coca-Cola in this particular line, they saved in a month like 12% of their energy. Like they reduce their energy consumption on this by 12%. So some people look at this and they just have a visceral reaction to, I don't believe that this is real first, and that I'm kind of off put by seeing an avatar there, Cortana, or this assistant, this virtual assistant. Like, is this so? I just was wondering if you had an opinion on something like this. Is when people see that, what's the reality of that when it hits the streets?
I think people are excited about it. The big takeaway for me with Ignite was those wind farms, being able to run simulations. So to your point around energy efficiency, the temperature outside affecting operations inside. That one scenario with the wind farm being able to take historical weather patterns and how they're currently running those now, and just be able to use those digital twins using AI, using all of the telemetry that's and being able to create those models and run those simulations.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. I think from a business perspective, I think leaders are excited about that. For sure. Now, when it comes to avatars, we've been playing with avatars for well over a year now, if not longer. And we use mesh, so we have multiple HoloLens wearers in our company, and it is accepted. We get a little pushback at some of the conferences because it's new technology, and you have to remember oil and gas and manufacturing. It's a different audience, but to some degree, being able to represent yourself in such a way that it's taking the aesthetics and the camera out of it, and a visualization of how you would appear to be. Think Neo from the Matrix. I think is really exciting to some users too. So I think it plays on both spectrums.
True, you have people from both sides of this. Everybody's got sometimes a different perspective on it, and so for some people it's off-putting, and other folks are like, no, this is what I kind of expect. I would think this is cool to work in an environment like this.
Mm-hmm. So and when we show it, because we do teleportation. So the other HoloLens are literally from the floor. You see almost like a little Star Trek pad, and they will virtualize. And again, wearing the HoloLens, you can hear them. Right? It's as if they're standing next to you. You can high five, clap. It's very interactive. It's not as flat as it appears like Morgan's Metaverse. The avatar was a little further away. It was a little more personal. Mm-hmm. When you're actually in those mesh sessions, it's fantastic. It's exciting. You can whiteboard, and we use Unity. We've taken our 3D models. We've tested. And then we review them at HoloLens is on. So it's fantastic technology. It's feedback that you're getting that's not typical Teams meeting where you have to share documents.
Mm-hmm.
Put in your whiteboard your changes, etc. It's all done within mesh as well.
Nice.
So
that's cool. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Fun stuff. Yeah. So if you haven't been able to go, if you're watching, you can go to Ignite and you can watch all these sessions. So and a lot of them are also on YouTube too. So you can go to the YouTube channel for Microsoft and just type in Industrial Metaverse and Ignite, and you'll see the different ideas that were presented, and so it's really interesting. This was one, same concept. They didn't have a 3D model that they were showing, but it was in Mercedes. So we announced a big partnership with Mercedes in their factory there in Germany. So that's pretty cool stuff. So, all right. Well, I wanted to. So let's Here we go. Jennifer, I know you've been waiting for this. You are excited. I know that this is very exciting for you. Everybody's very excited to, yay, Wave 2, yay. Okay, thank you. All right, so Wave 2 is out. It started getting rolled out to our customers last couple weeks ago. And so I just wanted to just highlight a couple of the things that are with that. Let everybody know that we are planning to do like we call a brown bag, which will actually be developers and stuff like that. Our product team will help kind of demo their products that each one of them made. I love those, which is getting our actual dev teams to talk about their baby. It's really cool. So with that said, a couple of things that happened. So these are our kind of main themes that we've been working on. That frontline worker, just continuing a lot of work that we have on on the mobile application. We're continuing to just really work on that and make it just to be the best experience that we can. For that. One of the things I should say, and I don't think we mentioned this in any of our earlier podcasts, we have more developers now working on field service than we have ever had on this platform. We had a giant infusion this last year that puts more product managers and developers working on these tools than we've ever had. So it's very much a double down for us on this. And so it's really cool to see. We're just now seeing kind of the beginning parts of some of those investments. And in the next year, you're going to see some pretty amazing things. So. But the mobile client is a big deal. You think about it, when we do demos and when I coach people to do demos, a lot of folks, they love to go to the web interface and they show the schedule board and all that, which is important and cool for one set of workers. But the workers that we're really most interested, I personally am most interested, is the folks on the mobile, the guys and gals, like I was saying early on, that are doing, that's the team that we're enabling, the frontline technicians, and so that mobile experience has to be really, really good. And so there's some enhancements that I'll talk about those, and then the service operations part, we've added a couple of things to that which are really interesting, and then some things around our RSO or resource scheduling engine and stuff like that. So deployments began September 30th, and so it depends on the region that you're in. And the data center that you're being served out of, those go out in waves. And I think by this point, almost everybody has had theirs done. So there's some things that we've done on the mobile component. One is we cleaned up a lot of the command bar component, this part down here on the bottom where it says save and stuff like that. So the process command has been moved away from that, just kind of cleaning that up a little. We're going to continue, and depending on where you're at and when we actually roll this out, but just the offline. So the app open and the opening of the application experience and that kind of push notification stuff that happens that you're able to do in the platform to be able to push that off. We're working on a lot of performance improvements. It is a hard, we've been doing, it doesn't matter what tool you're using, whether it's Power Apps or Resco or Field Service, when you push that I'm offline button, that is complicated. The change management, all the stuff of records, changes, which ones do you get, all of the filtering that has to happen, it's really complex. And especially when you're on a mobile device, because, it's not always on, and it's like stable and then not stable, and the bandwidth isn't always the same. So you drop packets, and it's just, there's a lot of complexities to nailing the offline synchronization stuff. And so when it loads up, by default, the Field Service mobile app works offline. It works offline. So as soon as it launches, it is going to say, hey, do I have the most recent changes? And so that launching part of the process is sometimes can take a little while. So we're working to improve that opening and navigation performance experience as it kind of manages the load. It's kind of cool. Do you guys do a lot with the mobile application, like editing? We do. Yeah. Changing it up and stuff like that.
It's a piece for our customers. We implement Field Service.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of people don't quite realize that the Field Service Mobile is effectively a fancy Power App. It's Power Apps is kind of the framework that it has. So it's really, it's the same tools that you're using to edit a Power App. You can go in and change the screens and add new entities, and you can basically make this your own application. So we ship it with all the features turned on and like, hey, this isn't this cool, but not every customer needs all of those functions and features, and they have 3 other entities that they want to add that aren't in the out of the box one, and so yeah, that's always a fun part. I like the fact that we've done stuff with the tablets too, that they've made it so that it understands the orientation a little better and works in a tablet format quite a bit. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So this is one of the cool features, that brand new function within the application, this concept of not to exceed, where you set up a service and it's not just the cost, but a lot of times when, let's say I dispatch somebody to go out and I'm going to say, I want you to go out and do a repair the door on the store, and they get there and the door's been hit by a car or it is falling off the hinges, and so it's not just a simple repair. It is hey, we need to replace the door. So what I sent the guy out there thinking, hey, it's only going to be a couple $100 to do the replacement or fix the hinge. Now all of a sudden it's $1,000 or $2,000 to replace the door. And so that mechanism of being able to know what am I as an engineer or technician in the field allowed to charge for this service up to a certain amount, and then after that I need to get an approval. And so that's the whole idea behind this. Like, it really helps us with managing contractors and subcontractors and all of that kind of stuff. So this is a cool feature that we're adding to this, and it really lets them just do the work they need to do without having to call back and get an approval. You can do work up to this, and then if you go over that, now we have a whole mechanism that we can use Power Automate to go, I need approval for this. And now I could build a business process that can then go, I need approval for this. Push the magic button, sends the approval request over. Power Automate has a really cool approval process that you could, set up and then just approve that, and then I'm off and running. Or no, I'm not going to approve it. I need to get multiple quotes out there for it. So it helps control costs and improve productivity, which is pretty cool. I think that's a pretty cool function. This is stuff that we would build. Like doing different demos for different customers. It's one of these, you just got to build this into the system, and the fact that we just built it.
We've done that so many times.
Yeah.
So it's native now.
Now native, yeah. The other one is trades. So we added a new entity into the system that resources are part of a specific trade, and it adds more dimensions to the schema, which allows us to kind of not only specify a specific resource and a skill, but a trade that a specific work order type requires. And so that allows you to organize the types of services. And so, like, if you're doing, managing a facility, you have lots of categories of services that need to be required. I've got elevators, I need electricians, I need plumbers, I need, all sorts of masons, I need all sorts of different technicians, and really broadly in that industry, we call them trades. And so it's like, what is the contractor that fits in this trade? It now allows me to build a schema and relationships between trades and resources, and trades and people, and trades and customers and companies, and just really fill out that detail that's required. So it's pretty cool. I think that one's good. Again, it's just really, you're ensuring that you're getting the agreed upon services that you provide, right? So the one of the tricks that we were finding is that facilities management people or facilities managers, they have like the magic Rolodex. It's like a reverse CRM system in many ways. It's like, who are my magic vendors? And if I'm doing the heating and cooling work and I manage heating and cooling and all the contractors, but the gal across, my partner, she's over here working on, she does all the electricians. She has her Rolodex and all of her contacts, and so being able to, like, say, manage that from a hierarchical standpoint and share that data across the organization just keeps me from having to ask somebody else, hey, and send an email, hey, who's our good heating and cooling contractor, that who's our preferred one, that kind of stuff. So it just builds schema into the system. So I love that feature too. The new schedule board, a lot of people, this has been, if you're brand new to Microsoft, this is no big deal. Like, well, why wouldn't it do that? But other folks that have been around for a long time, the schedule board, when we first built the schedule board, was super extensible. You were able to kind of get in and hack the HTML and do all sorts of fun stuff, which was really helpful. But what we found is we needed to improve the performance overall of the schedule board. And so we had to build a brand new schedule board, which means we had an old schedule board and a new schedule board. And we've had to give customers a time to migrate to the new one and make sure we had all the functions in the new one that the old one had and all of this kind of stuff. So this allows us to just have that new schedule board now is at parity in terms of function and feature, and we're, it's doubled up. So you can still go back to the old schedule board if you want, but the new one is on by default. And so this is kind of a cool. So it's a really big performance issue. I've always said, because I helped when I was at Winsoft, looking at that back in the day, back in CRM4 and CRM 2011, trying to load up a schedule board was really complicated because the query behind that, think about it, like it's got to go out and find every appointment and put it in a grid against all these resources, thousands of records inside of the system, and it was really complicated and very slow in terms of performance, hard to do. And so this is like a piece of art to me. The level of sophistication in terms of the development and programming that the team has worked on this is it is a stellar piece of technical work, and it's magic. And when you're a user, you don't kind of really appreciate the level of detail because it's really simple to use, but the complications behind this, my claim is this is the most sophisticated part of Dynamics code that we have in terms of a user interface. What it's doing on the fly is amazing. RSO, we're continuing to work on RSO and develop and add more functions to this. One of the things that RSO we did early on, and now we've kind of dialed it back a little. One of the things that we did early on was kind of let users make mistakes in the system because it gave us flexibility. And gave a users kind of flexibility to do whatever they wanted. And one of the things that RSO does is, as a result of that, is you have to be very specific in terms of all the bookings that are in the scope of the work. And so if you don't put all of the bookings in the scope, the system will allow you to double book. You can double book people, right? The system allows you to double book a resource. And RSO had that feature in it, but we wanted to go, wait a second, people didn't really expect that RSO would do that. RSO was supposed to, even out the schedule. So now by default, it's going to avoid overlapping any bookings on a resource. So it will not double book. It will actually either not book or move the booking if it's in the scope. So that's no overlapping booking. So there's not a lot of cleanup that has to be done after somebody's doing their thing. So, and if you're in the EU, you can thank your federal government for this, or your European Union. But it is turned off. Bing Maps is disabled by default for the EU regions. And this is just, it's a part of our regulatory requirements that we have of hosting data over there. It's just to be compliant with that. You can turn it on, but by default it's turned off. And it's just because there's data residency requirements, and Bing Maps will, when it does like address resolution and some of the different things, it sends that data outside of the EU to do that resolution. So that's why we turn that off by default. So, and that's the last of that slide. But that was cool. I think that I'm excited about the new functions and features that we have within inside of the system. And speaking of regulation, I have a funny story to tell you. So I got a call yesterday from one of my colleagues, and they're working on putting in our learning management system a bunch of field service classes that I taught last year, and we recorded all of these classes. And so it was it's like 30 hours worth of recordings all put into our new hire kind of field service 100 level stuff. And so then we put it all in there. We added it all the questions and the quizzes and all of that. And so the last thing that they have to do is do a compliance check to make sure that it's not leaking out confidential data, and I'm using good words and I'm not cussing. Well, come to find out of 30 hours worth of stuff, Pierre had 11 violations on the list, and it was pretty cool. To see this list of like, man, I didn't realize we did that. Like, that is so, I thought this was really cool. So it's all these words like, I use the word crazy a lot. I use the word crazy like 4 times, and that's not a great word to use. With neurodiversity and different contexts, that's not, so we'd maybe use a different word. So it's like an audio thesaurus that you're going to be able to go through instead of getting rid of all the ums and ers. It's also going down and saying, these words or phrases, like if I would use the name of a customer specifically, like, oh, we can't use that because that's a confidential, or the other phrase I use, which is considered offensive, is the word crappy. I use crappy a lot. So it flagged all of that. So we have to now go through 11 spots in these 30 hours worth of videos and beep me out and change it. It's hilarious. But I thought, boy, wasn't it that? I just like, man, I can't wait to see how far that goes. It's basically doing sentiment analysis. And, somebody that speaks and writes, it's like I always go use very simple words and then go back later when I'm writing and use the thesaurus and pick it out and go pick better words. And it's like when you're doing all this contemporaneous speaking, it's kind of difficult sometimes to remember like those words, don't use those words. So it was a good reminder, but I thought that was really cool.
In a word chart.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting that the thing that I really appreciate, because one of my really great friends here at Microsoft's Donna Sakar, she used to run Microsoft's Windows Insider program, and she's one of the directors for our accessibility components. And so she's a giant advocate for accessibility inside of our applications. And so this to me was just following through on the commitments that we have around being, a diverse and inclusive environment, and being able to make sure that what we're saying out in the public, matches with the values that we pretend to have, that this is what we're going to be, and this is what we're actually going to do. And so to go down to that level of detail, I thought, wow, that's impressive. And so a lot of times you take criticism for what your feedback for being, speaking and whatnot, being a public part of what Microsoft is doing. That kind of comes with the territory. So I always loved that feedback. I always enjoyed that when I was a technical seller at Microsoft, and is getting that kind of feedback. So I thought that was kind of cool. Regulation, man. That's all.
You know what? Only 11 though.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Well, that's the story. That's the show. That's it. It's the end. It's the time to be done. It's the time to be done. We should have. Let's see. I have to have a closing song here. There we go. It's like the gospel closing at the end of church. So, Jennifer, thanks for your time, and thank you all for your time on LinkedIn, and appreciate everybody's feedback today. And we're looking forward to our next time. We'll be together probably in a couple weeks, and with our next topic. And thank you so much for your support, and we just enjoy talking about our connected field service customers and what we're doing out here. So, y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.